Hey friends, my name is Joey and welcome back to my channel, Gender Not Found. So I'm about to read a chapter of Guardian Angel and we might read what oh my god. This always happens when I first start. We might read we might read more than one. Depending on like how long the chapters are, and I do have a thing at one with it's noon right now, and I do have a thing at one with Carrie Ann, so I'm gonna be doing that. And we're probably just gonna be watching some TV or something. And then we'll probably be back around like, I don't know, 2:30ish and maybe do a little bit more recording. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and read this. And by the way, I haven't had to do like a captcha on fanfiction.net in a long time. Like, seems like ever since my computer got back from the shops. I don't know, maybe it's like the technology he installed on the computer that is making it so I don't have to complete a captcha. But I haven't had to complete a captcha in like, I don't know, a week or something. Anyway, Chapter 41, Missing You. This sucked. It was a month since she'd seen him last. Everyone was just busy too, so it's not like they could just up and see each other. FP was pulling doubles like crazy. Ember got a job modeling, oddly enough, after she got pulled aside by a scouting agent. Ash and Mo were working too. Even Fiona had found herself with a job to distract herself from the extreme boredom and loneliness. Lisa had got her job at the Forest Center, and only a week after she got it, one of the girls quit, and Marceline was working along right beside them. She'd been so focused that she hadn't even noticed it was Friday, the same Friday that they were set to play the concert for, the very same Friday she'd taken off work to get down to the show's location on time. Fiona hurried through the door, pulling her sweatshirt off and heading to the locker room. Sorry I'm late. I've been so caught up with like everything. And seriously, nothing has been going right now at all. And I can't wait till tomorrow, the blonde said as she threw her jacket into the locker, Marceline having followed after her. Fiona, what are you doing here? The blonde looked at her funny. It's Thursday. What are you doing here? Now Marceline looked at Fiona quizzically. Fee, it's Friday. You have the day off for that concert. Marceline watched as the blonde's eyes widened in shock. Crap! Snatching up her sweatshirt, she pulled it back on and headed towards the door. Do you need a ride home? Please, she said quickly, watching as Marceline grabbed her keys. Let's go, blonde. What happened to your hair? Marceline asked, pausing to stare in shock. It's a long story, Marcy. Can we please just go? I'll tell you on the way. Okay, come on, the black-haired teen said, leading Fiona out the door, LSP waving bye to them. So? She asked, starting the car and driving from the parking lot. It started this morning. I woke up with gum in my hair, so I took a shower. Jake set Finn up for a prank and put blue Kool-Aid mix in what he thought was his shampoo. It was mine. Then I cut my finger with the knife after mom asked me to peel potatoes. I twisted my ankle coming down the stairs. Then I ran here all freaked out. Oh my glob, I'm going to be late to the show, she groaned, putting her head in her hands before quickly digging around for her phone, dialing a number. Much to Marceline's surprise, though, Fiona didn't call Marshall, but his friend FP, and the dark-haired girl could tell she was panicking. Eventually, she hung up. Why'd you call the other guy and not Marsh? Because FP's obnoxious enough to manage to get their stage time changed. He'd probably just rewrite the schedule for the sets. He's done that before, but we'll be up last, and I still don't know if I'll make it on time, Fiona said with a sigh as Marceline pulled up to the blue-tinted blonde's house. Good luck, Fee. Thanks, Marcy, Fiona said, running into the house. Guys, we're gonna have a little bit of time swapped set back. FP said, evidence of the dry smoker still in his hands. Everybody was there except for Marshall, who was waiting by the door. Fee just called and she's running late, which should be fine because we're in the final time slot. We were third, Ash said flatly. Well, now we're sixth, he said with a shrug, watching as Marshall walked up looking worried. Fiona's not here yet, and I'm getting worried, guys. She'll call you in a few. She's running late and just had me change around the time slots, FP said with a shrug, the gesture clearly stating, what more can you do? Okay, that explains some, Marshall said with a sigh as he leaned against the wall. The time flew by, and even though he'd received his phone call from Fiona, things weren't looking good. Her father had hit some traffic, and it was looking like she was going to miss the show, especially since they were up next and she was still 20 minutes away. The set before them had ended, and had already cleared their equipment. The boys tried buying Fiona time, but eventually the moment came where they were all set, standing in front of the audience, with the lights beaming down on them as they began to play. Fiona, it's okay. Things like this happen, Steve said softly, watching as the girl was completely unglued in his car. Dad, it's not okay. They were depending on me to sing that song. Oh my god, this is horrible. Today's just terrible, Fiona said in frustration as her fingers ran through her blue hair. And I'm gonna kill Jake for this too, she snapped, holding the stained blue locks in her hand angrily. Her father finally pulled over. They were playing at Delfino's again. Grabbing her backpack, Fiona hurried into the building, her father honking the horn behind her and waving goodbye. She could hear them playing and knew it was too late. The last song they were supposed to play, Fiona was supposed to sing. FP wanted to cover Wrecking Ball, so they'd all agreed. But as she stopped and watched sadly, Fiona listened as Marshall and FP were singing it. She had to admit, though, while she'd been looking forward to singing it, it sounded much, much better done by the boys. The final chords faded as they ended their set, and almost immediately Marshall's eyes met Fiona's for a brief moment before he looked away, still scanning the crowd like he was looking for someone. Fiona felt like she'd been slapped. He looked at her as if he didn't even know her. Was he that mad? Were the boys that mad? Glancing around again, he looked at her, staring until recognition and confusion filled his face. It was then Fiona realized why he hadn't noticed her the first time. Her hair was blue, and in the frustration and disappointment of missing the set and worrying about upsetting the guys in the band, she'd forgotten her hair had been stained by Jake's prank. Quickly, he hopped from the stage, and walking over instead of a hug or even a kiss, when he reached Fiona, Marshall reached past her, taking her ponytail in his hand, and looked at it curiously before speaking. I didn't even recognize you. Why's your hair blue? He asked softly, looking to the former blonde who looked at him sadly. I got caught in a prank by Jake meant for Finn. I finished my song, though, she said softly. I just have to come up with the music part of it. That sucks. I'm sorry. It won't wash out. And that's awesome. FP finished a song, too, Marshall said as the group, having cleared the stage before them. Geez, Marshall, just because Fiona's not here doesn't mean you can just play with some random chick's hair, geez. FP said, rolling his eyes before winking at her. Sup with the hair change, Fifi. Ignitus, I will kill you tonight, Fiona said in annoyance, watching as he laughed. Sorry, can't help it, he said with a grin as Ash and Moko just stared at her. Your mom must have loved that, Mo said, smoking while Ash nodded in agreement. She made Jake scrub the bathroom with a toothbrush and bleach. Ouch, Ma's pissed then, huh? Marshall said, leading her to the back door. The guys ahead of them as they made their way to the van and FP's truck. Yeah, she is. The tub's stained blue. I would not want to be him, Marshall said as they began putting their equipment in the van. Finally, everything was done, and all the guys got into their respective vehicles, and after bidding them farewell, took off. It was then that Fiona realized that she and Marshall were stuck in the parking lot. Ash and Mo had left in the van, and FP had taken his truck. Marsh, how are we getting home? Fiona asked suddenly, watching as he grinned. I talked to my financial advisor. Your mom? Yup. I told her that being stuck in the house sucked and that I can't keep depending on everyone to drive me around, and she agreed. So we went and picked out a car and had special windows installed so I can drive around during daylight hours without having to worry about getting burned, he said, unalarming the car as Fiona watched the lights flash on a fairly new looking black car with darkened windows. Come on, get in. I have no idea on how we might be able to fix your hair. I mean, it might not. I have an idea on how we might be able to fix your hair. I mean, it might not work completely, but it should fade it a lot more than it is now, Marshall said, getting in the car, Fiona climbing into the passenger seat and tossing her backpack in the back seat. You know, with this car, you can come see me anytime you want to. That was exactly the purpose of convincing my mother to get me this car. I just told her it was for my independence, Marshall said, making her grin as he started the car and drove off. It seemed that Marshall had more than one idea, because they bought 3 boxes of baking soda, dangerous shampoo, some kind of conditioner, and oddly toothpaste. Fiona didn't want to know how, but it seemed that Marshall knew what he was doing, because once they got to his house, he made his way into the kitchen, filling the empty sink with hot water and half the box of baking soda. Dragging a chair over, he sat in front of the sink. He sat it in front of the sink, motioning for her to sit as he did so. Fiona sat leaning her head back while Marshall draped a towel over her shoulders and put her hair in the sink. He began spraying it down with the hose, merely wetting it before he pulled it out and squeezed any excess liquid from it. Fiona couldn't lie. It felt really nice having him wash her hair. He first used the shampoo, lathering her hair up, but instead of rinsing it out, he began adding the toothpaste. The entire tube all went into her hair as he continued to coat her long locks. He worked slowly and meticulously as he worked the mixture from her scalp to the very tips of her hair, every now and then wetting his hands to keep her hair from drying out as he continued scrubbing it. Lean back a bit, Marshall said as Fiona did as she was told, and it seemed that her leaning wasn't enough because he actually tilted the chair so it sat on two legs, much to her surprise. Fiona just stared at Marshall, nervously watching as he caught her nervous look and smiled reassuringly at her. I've seen this done before, you know. Once when we were about 10 or 11, FP and we got into this kind of food fight at his grandmother's when he had this brilliant idea that using Kool-Aid to color his hair would be brilliant. So we whipped open the pack of blue and didn't really plan it out well because our hands were stained blue. His head and parts of his face were blue, and his hair ended up being purple, Marshall said with a laugh as he began adding more hot water and baking soda to the sink. When he was done, he began pouring the mixture onto her head as he slowly worked the strange mixture from her hair. It had taken him a good 40 minutes and 3 sink changes to finish, and still he wouldn't allow Fiona to get up. Once everything was rinsed out, this time he used a handful of dish soap, quickly working that through her hair and rinsing it out. Now stay there for a minute, he said, walking from the room and bringing back what Fiona recognized as the conditioner from the bag that he'd bought earlier. Marshall began working that through her hair too, though this time he didn't rinse it out of her hair but left her in the kitchen as he walked from the room. Marshall returned with another handful of something and began rubbing that in her hair too. After more than an hour of working on her hair, Fiona was finally allowed to move, Marshall having finished washing and rinsing it. She sat between his legs while Marshall towel dried her hair. When he was done, Fiona handed him the brush too, giving him a look, and after a moment he laughed, shaking his head as he gently began brushing out her damp and much more blonde hair. Fiona was in bliss because had she brushed her own hair out, she would have attacked it with the brush, getting stuck multiple times before eventually ripping strands of it out. But not once did Marshall even tug it. When he finished that as well, Fiona handed him one of her hair ties, and instead of pulling it back in a ponytail like she'd expected him to, Marshall pulled the strands into a simple braid that went down her back until he tied it off at the end. Marshall flicked the braid over her left shoulder and leaned forward, kissing his way up the right side of her neck and feeling as the blonde's body melted against his as his arms wound their way around her. I really, really missed you, Marshall said softly, nuzzling his face into the crook of her neck. The warmth of his breath on her neck gave Fiona goosebumps. I know, I missed you too, Marshall. This month sucked, she said softly, feeling the chill of the early October air blowing through the window. How have you been feeling? Fiona asked. Every time she asked him, Marshall seemed to be vague about it. I'm fine, he said with a reassuring smile. You've nothing to worry about, I promise. Fiona stared at him, and after a moment she was convinced, and turning, she snuggled into his embrace with a smile. It was close to 2 in the morning, and still holding on to the blonde, Marshall stood taking her with him and setting her on her feet. Let's go to sleep. We've got a bunch of stuff to do tomorrow. Like what? Fiona asked curiously. Well, we have to find you something special for your birthday coming up, and I have to hang it over your head out of reach for the next 2.5 weeks, Marshall said with a smirk. Hearing this, Fiona punched his arm lightly. You're mean, like beyond mean, she said, trying not to let him see her smirk. It's not like you can deny that you're in love with me, Fiona, so go ahead and admit it, Marshall said, still smoking and watching as her face tinged red. As much of an obvious thing their relationship was, Fiona still blushed at the mention of it, and because she did, Marshall loved to tease her about it. I do love you, now stop teasing me, Fiona said, pinching him and making Marshall jump away from her to avoid the sharp stinging sensation as he laughed. Come on, Fee, let's go to sleep, he said, heading up the stairs. By the time Fiona arrived, he'd already changed into pajama pants, and his shirt was off as he flopped onto the side of the bed, his arms folded behind his head as he waited for the blonde to appear. Fiona knelt at the foot of the bed, digging through her backpack for pajamas. Pulling out a large t-shirt, Fiona decided to do a bit of teasing on her own. Marshall did not blush easily. The deed was practically impossible without making him a bit freaked out about what she was doing. They both talked They'd both talked and argued They'd both talked and agreed that waiting until after her birthday to give Tier 15 a try would be best. Fiona, however, wasn't concerned. She figured that it would happen when it happened and didn't want to rush anything, though she had a feeling that it would be a while after her birthday before they even so much as spoke about it again. Marshall had brought it up that time, and while her face had been pink in embarrassment, so had his. With a smirk, Fiona stood with the shirt in hand, watching him watch her with amusingly large eyes, as she easily peeled her shirt off, quickly following with her jeans, and taking a painstakingly long time to figure out just which hole her head went through on the shirt, as she leaned her weight from one leg to the other. When she glanced up, Fiona was happy to see Marshall's face quite red, as he was looking away from the blonde. Seeing this, she laughed, pulled on the shirt in a flash, and crawled on the bed, flopping next to him, though when she tried to snuggle close to him, Marshall wouldn't let her as he stood and hurried out the door, leaving the blonde confused, especially when the shower turned on. Marshall returned 15 minutes later, looking much less flustered and very wet. Are you okay? Yeah, I just forgot that I haven't had a shower in the last 2 days and didn't brush my teeth and I don't want to smell funky around you, he said, flopping on the bed, the lie sounding very much like a lie even to him. Marsh, are you really? Fiona was cut off as he kissed her, practically taking her breath away. You have absolutely no idea what you do to me, do you? He asked, watching as Fiona blinked owlishly next to him, looking puzzled. I'm totally fine. I just needed a shower, he said softly, allowing Fiona to snuggle up next to him. Okay, the blonde said softly. Okay? Marshall asked just to be sure. Mm-hmm. Good. You're not mad about me missing the show, right? Fiona said softly. Nah, it happens. We've all done it at one point or another, the dark-haired teen said, holding the blonde tightly against him as she snuggled into his chest. I'm happy you're not mad. Of course I'm not. Besides, I don't think I could ever stay mad at you, even if I was, Fee. Hearing this, she smiled, and slowly Fiona allowed her eyes to drift shut, feeling as his hand rubbed gently up and down her back. Okay, if that was a lie, then what was the truth? Anyway, I will be right back in a second. I'm just gonna move on to the next chapter. I might read another chapter. I'm gonna see. Anyway, BRB. Okay, I'm back a day later again, and I'm gonna read a chapter of A Guardian Angel, and we're gonna get to some other stuff too, hopefully. And I really want to read In the Heart of Darkness today, so hopefully we're gonna get to that because I think I read the first part, which is like the first 12 to 13 chapters in my on my old channel. So I'm gonna try and see. I'm gonna probably reread the first part and then we'll get to because I like edited and updated a bunch of stuff. So anyway, but regardless of that, I'm gonna go and read A Guardian Angel now. Oh, hang on, wrong one. All right. Um. Okay, hang on. We are on chapter 42, Trading. Marshall, Billy, FP, Ash, and Moko sat listening as Fiona sang her song, and at its completion they all applauded her. This is how they did things. When someone came up with a song, the entire band sat and listened, and after they offered critiques. This time, however, before any of them could critique the blonde, Billy spoke up. FP, I want you to sing your song again. The redhead stared in confusion, sharing a look with Marshall before doing as he was told. They all listened as FP sang his song again, and when he finished it, he sat silently waiting for Billy's response as he stared at the lyrics written in the paper on his hand. I want to try something different. Fiona, your song was very good, but it seems a bit aggressive. And Ignitus, you got sensitive on yours. I want you two to trade songs and see how they sound when sung by the other gender. What? But I worked my butt off on that song, Fiona said, feeling as if they were just stealing her music from her. I know, Fiona, but I just want to hear how it sounds when FP sings it. That's all, and I want to hear how his song sounds when you sing it. Don't think he didn't put just as much effort into his song as you did. he said, watching as Fiona flushed in embarrassment, giving FP an apologetic look. Okay, she said softly. However, FP suddenly spoke up. I don't know if I can do that. I know how the music for my song sounds in my head, and I think it's the same for Fiona. How can we sing along to a beat we've never heard? Actually, for my song, me and Marcy have been working on the beginning of the song with her dad's equipment, and the music in the beginning part goes through the whole thing. Would that help? It might. Let's hear it. Do you have anything in mind for the drums yet? He asked, looking at the blonde who shook her head. Feel free to do what you want with it, Fiona said, looking over to Ash, who nodded as he went and sat at his drum set, grabbing the sticks and twirling them idly in his fingers. Whenever you're ready, you can play it, Fiona, FP said, waiting for Fiona to pull it up on her phone and letting the music play, as FP sat there listening to it with a grin. I already like where this is going, he said, looking at the sheet with Fiona's lyrics on it as he began to sing. And again, I'm not going to be singing this because I don't know the lyrics or the tune. I won't suffer, be broken, get tired or wasted, surrender to nothing, or give up what I started and stopped it from end to beginning. A new day is coming and I am finally free. Run away, I'll attack. Run away, go chase yourself. Run away, now I'll attack, I'll attack, I'll attack. I won't have I would have kept you forever, but we had to sever. It ended for both of us faster than a kill off this thinking. It's starting to sink in. I'm losing control now, but without you, I can finally see. Run away, I'll attack. Run away, go chase yourself. Run away, now I'll attack. I'll attack, I'll attack. Your promises, they look like lies. Your honesty, like a back that hides a knife. I promise you, promise you, I am finally free. Run away, I'll attack. Run away, go chase yourself. Run away, now I'll attack. I'll attack, I'll attack. I will attack. Run away, run away, I'll attack. I will attack. Run away, I'll attack. I will attack. Run away. Now I'll attack. I'll attack. I'll attack. Your promises, promises, promises. I promise you, promise you, promise you. I promise you, promise you, promise you. The song came to an end and Fiona shut the music off. Oh my glob, it sounds way better when you sing it, she said, sounding completely amazed and honestly feeling just a little bit jealous. I thought it would be like this, Billy said with a smirk. Fiona, you sing Ignitus's song. Ignitus try and coach her through it to get the rhythm, the white-haired man said, as FP did his best to coach Fiona through the song to get the beat of it. And finally, when she felt she had it, Fiona began to sing. From ocean to sky, summer and fall, I have been there through it all. From laughing and crying to pain that comes easily. From shades of gray meaning that turn out so sweetly. I wonder what I'll find. I look up to the sun, it only hurts my eyes. Maybe it's the answer I've been wanting in disguise. The more you are with me, the more that I'm alone. I don't need the answer, I already know. Subtle in grace, desperate for change, my hand moves away, melt dry eyes for days. Something's not right, smiles and tantrums. Hit the ground running, it's all over and been done. I wonder what I'll find. I look up to the sun, it only hurts my eyes. Maybe it's the answer I've been wanting in disguise. The more you are with me, the more that I'm alone. I don't need the answer, I already know. What happens next? We'll stop and go. The promises has already run cold. So now you know. So now you know. I look up to the sun. It only hurts my eyes. Maybe it's the answer I've been wanting in disguise. The more you are with me, the more that I'm alone. I don't need the answer. The answer. I look up to the sun. It only hurts my eyes. Maybe it's the answer I've been wanting in disguise. The more you are with me, the more that I'm alone. I don't need the answer. I already know. Dude, she sings my song better than I do. I'm totally up for a lyrical vocal trade, FP said, leaning back in his chair and balancing it on two legs as he reached behind him for his soda. Is that okay with you, Fiona? It will still be known that you wrote that song. Besides, they said you had to write one original and sing an original. They never said it had they never said it had to be the same song, Billy said immediately as Billy said as immediately Fiona's eyes lit up. It doesn't? She asked in utter elation. Nope, you just had to write one song and sing one. Oh my god, this is awesome, the blonde said excitedly as she jumped up and down. Yes, I'm done with all the hard work. Hearing this, the boys laughed. Oh, Fiona, you say that now, but wait until you have to record. You'll sing the same song over and over to get it perfect until you actually hate it, Billy said with a grin. But it'll be worth it, all of you. It'll be worth it if this is what you truly love doing, he said, standing to his feet. I'm gonna go. You all are good with the amount of songs right now. Practice them, make the music, get it perfect, and just keep on with it. Your first recording session is in 1 month on the 14th. I'll get you the time when I find it, but for now, have fun. You guys definitely earned it. FP, good job as usual. And Fiona, a truly amazing first attempt at writing a song. You should be very proud of yourself, Billy said before walking out of the house. Well, this meeting was completely productive. I have to split. I've got work in 30, Ash said, standing and bidding them farewell. Most did too. I have to get the stables done, so I have to split too, he said, waving goodbye. Ignitus, Marshall, and Fiona were the only ones left. And after talking more about what recording the album would be like, FP caught sight of the clock and swore quickly, getting up. Late for work? Fiona asked in concern. Nah, I told Emma that I'd get the apartment cleaned before she got back from work, he said with a laugh. She really might kill me this time, he said, hurrying from the house and driving off. Want to go hang out at the mall? Marshall asked, having ulterior motives for wanting to go there. Sure, I'll grab my stuff and we can go, the blonde said brightly, climbing the stairs as Marshall grabbed his wallet from the side table near the door, along with his car keys. Fiona hurried down the stairs, and together they made their way to the car as Marshall started it as they made their way to the mall. The building was huge, and Marshall still hadn't gotten Fiona anything for her birthday, or so she thought, because he was looking inside every single store at the mall. They had been there for hours, and eventually the blonde had to run to the bathroom. When she returned, she spotted Marshall at a jewelry kiosk, talking to the guy who was handing him a bag. Being quite nosy and not caring, Fiona flounced over to him. "So what you gettin'?" She asked with a grin. I bought a new chain for your necklace. It's not as delicate as the other one, so it'll be a bit more durable, he said, watching as the blonde tilted her head. Oh, what did you think I was doing? He asked, watching as the blonde simply shrugged. I don't know, that's why I asked, she said before turning and spotting the familiar brick wall of Spencer's gift store. Ooh, let's go in here, Fiona said excitedly as she ran in, leaving Marshall behind in her excitement. That was quite lucky for him because turning right back around, the man at the kiosk handed him a small box, watching as the teen pocketed it, and with a wave of thanks he made his way after Fiona. Look, it's a panda hat, was the first thing Fiona said to Marshall when he entered the store, and immediately she put it on his head. I look amazing in this hat, he said with a grin, watching as Fiona laughed. I still look downright sexy in that bunny hat of yours, though, Marshall said with a devious smirk as Fiona blushed. Nah, I don't like it on you, Fiona said, taking the hat from his head and putting it back on the rack. How about this? Marshall asked, putting on a Jamaican hat with long fake dreads on it. Oh, glob, Marsh, no way, Fiona said with a laugh. Yeah, you're right. That's more for FP when he's drunk and singing The Little Mermaid, he said, making the blonde laugh harder. They continued exploring the store, Fiona desperately escaping the 18 and older section, her face bright red as Marshall teased her with a pair of fuzzy handcuffs and frilly panties. Because of that, he was pinged in the head with a book from halfway across the store, and though he felt she'd overreacted just a bit, Marshall had to admit that Fiona had great aim. The funny thing was that she thought she was safe in the book section, but when he made his way over there, Fiona was flicking through the pages of a book, and peering behind it, Marshall caught the title of the book and paled. Fee, you really don't want to read that, Marshall said, watching as she looked up at him, checking to see if he was fuzzy handcuffs and panty free. Why not? It seems interesting enough so far, the blonde said innocently. It's 50 Shades of Grey. So? Now Marshall blinked. Have you not heard of that book, Fiona? No? Well, I have, and you won't want to read it. Well, what's in it? Now Marshall blushed. Back when he was dating Ashley, she'd been crazy over this trilogy and had even made him read it. There's lots and lots of kinky stuff, he said, hoping to keep the description to a minimum. What? Now Fiona was confused. Where had she heard that word before? Marshall seemed to take pity on her naivety. Leaning close, he lowered his voice to keep the conversation between them. It's an erotic novel, Fee. Book porn, he said in a whisper, watching as the blonde practically threw the book away from her. Quickly, he caught it and put it back on the shelf where it lived, watching as she made her way over to the lava lamps and the really cool to watch lights. There's nothing pervy here. I'm totally safe just looking at lava lamps, Fiona said, making Marshall laugh as he shook his head. As long as you're comfortable, he said, smirking at her. Want to go to the food court? Sure. Together they walked from Spencer's, and as they walked, Marshall grabbed Fiona's hand, watching as her cheeks flushed pink as she smiled at him. The food court was packed as usual, and after scoping a few places out, Marshall decided he wanted to try something different. Have you ever had sushi? He asked, looking at the blonde curiously. I haven't, have you? Nope. Want to try it? Yeah, that'll be cool, but what if we don't like it? She asked, giving him a look. Well, that's easy. We'll split a small order of whatever, and if we don't like it, we'll get something else. And if we do, we'll just order some more. Awesome idea. How do I use chopsticks? Now Marshall laughed. I'll teach you. My mom had a big deal about exploring cultures. I think, though, that she just didn't want to do dishes sometimes, because after we got a dishwasher, that excuse vanished, unless we were having some kind of Chinese type of food, Marshall said with a shrug as they looked at the menu. What do you think of shrimp? Fiona asked. That's always good. We'll save the raw fish for another day. Deal? Definitely a deal. There's shrimp rolls, veggie rolls, California rolls, caterpillar rolls, lobster rolls, spicy tuna rolls. Those only have a little bit of fish, and salmon rolls. Fiona said, how about we try the salmon rolls? He asked, looking at the blonde who nodded in agreement. If we like it, can we get the caterpillar rolls next? Yeah, no problem, Marshall said, ordering and receiving their food. They walked to an empty table, and Fiona sat next to Marshall, watching as he easily split the chopsticks, holding them perfectly. Okay, so why are my chopsticks stuck together? Fiona asked, taking hers from the paper wrapper. You have to split them, Fee. Start from the bottom and separate them slowly, or they'll break. Marcia watched as Fiona did as she was told. After that, he spent almost 10 minutes teaching her how to hold her chopsticks, and once she had it down, she tried picking up the food. Luckily for Marshall, she kept on trying on the same piece, because she completely destroyed it. After several minutes, the blonde gave up and picked up the mutilated piece of sushi between her fingers and popped it in her mouth. Marshall, using his chopsticks, did the same. It's actually pretty good, Fiona said, reaching for another piece, but before she could grab it from the small tray, Marshall had the piece she wanted between the two wooden sticks, offering her a bite. Fiona opened her mouth, taking the bite of food inside. It's very good. We should get more, Marshall said as Fiona nodded, with her mouth still full from her bite. Yeah, we should. It tastes way better not mushed, she said with a laugh, watching as Marshall took a bit of green paste and mixed it with the soy sauce and dipped his piece in it. Marshall Marshall watched as she watched him. Want some wasabi? I'm not sure what that is. It's spicy stuff. Oh, I like spicy. Load it up, she said, gesturing to the piece Marshall had picked up for her. Are you sure? Maybe you should taste it first. Nah, I'm cool, she said, opening her mouth and waiting for the next bite. With a shrug, Marshall dabbed a bit on the piece, and immediately Fiona looked skeptical. Really? Just that little bit, Marsh? I told you I can do spicy. Fiona, this isn't your average spicy. Now he watched as she dipped her finger in the green paste, popping it into her mouth. Oh my god, my tongue! She yelped, Marshall watching as she endured for the next minute or so before the intensity of the spice faded. So, you okay with just this little bit? Marshall asked, eating her bite and picking up another for her and dipping it lightly in his wasabi soy sauce mixture. Yeah, she said with a pout, taking the bite Marshall offered. She sat chewing, watching as Marshall went back for another order for them to share. She tried using her chopsticks again with the last piece and eventually got frustrated and skewered it on the end of her chopstick and popping it into her mouth that way. Marshall returned with two more orders of sushi and, much to Fiona's amusement, a plastic set of chopsticks with a spring on the top, looking much like an overly large clothespin. These are for kids and people who can't just use the wooden ones, Marshall said with a smirk, giving them to Fiona, who scowled at him but laughed at his innocent enthusiasm. He wasn't trying to be mean, he'd honestly just gotten them because she was having so much trouble. Together they finished their lunch, and after exploring the rest of the mall, the pair made their way back to Marshall's house. They arrived home and flopping on the love seat after putting in a movie. Fiona leaned against Marshall's shoulder, drifting off to the sounds of Sweeney Todd, Demon Barber of Fleet Street, the movie she'd picked out. With a shake of his head, Marshall sighed with a grin and rested his head on hers, watching the gruesome musical with a little too much enthusiasm. Yay! Awesome. Alright, well, that was fun. I was gonna say something, but now I forget what it was. But anyway, that was fun, and I love this book, and I'm really enjoying it, and I think I'm gonna try and do like two chapters at a time. So this is gonna be it for now. So I love each and every one of you guys. Please don't forget to always be yourself, And you are valid, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!